All right. Thanks for tuning in to Fulton's Music Room. This is an episode for Tuesday, March 9th, recorded on the 8th of March. I'm joined today by my good friend Caden Spear, who's also a vinyl connoisseur, musician, and an overall great friend of mine. And we're here to share some of our music. Caden, if you want to introduce yourself, feel free.
My name is Caden Spear, and I'm a student at Central, and live on Whidbey Island doing school online, just like a lot of other people. We're vibing.
Yeah, straight vibes. And, those vibes allow us to listen to music. Anyways, I'll start today. First up, out of my interdepartmental loan series, um, local record store owners let me borrow some records and try them out. Freddie Hubbard's Red Clay. This is essential, like early jazz kind of fusion album. It's got staples like Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Lenny White, and Joe Henderson on it. Many standards like this album is a standard album for jazz musicians. And it's really the framework for jazz we know it today, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of the drum sound on this album. I don't know if it's my stereo separation, if it's intentional, but I can just hear the kick drum all the time and it makes me insanely happy. And then there's lots of synchronizations with this album, which occur with Freddie Hubbard on trumpet and Joe Henderson on saxophone, which are really fun, giving them each other space to breathe while they solo, which is nice. Additionally, this album just has a very awesome aesthetic, as you can see. I won't open up the gatefold for you all, but it just puts you in that weird kind of dingy jazz club that's really going off.
Yeah. So today I got to try out this is my first White Stripes album. I got it at over town at Sonic Boom. It's some live BBC recordings, and just off the first side, I really enjoy it. There's some nice like little story from, I think it's the recording manager. The tour manager actually. But yeah, it's a nice little recording of his Jack White's sister Meg, and it's kind of like you kind of hear him talking about stuff, but not really. But I really did like enjoying hearing the kind of blues solos. They're really just like kind of, it's that classic Jack White kind of distortion. Sounds like chaos going on, but you can really it's nice and it's really enjoyable to listen to. But like I said, I was only able to listen to one side and had some difficulties with the vinyl itself, like getting um, into the little player. But yeah, it's a nice little album. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed Jack White's creativity, especially as you express the bluesy solos.
Yeah.
Up next, another on the interdepartmental loan series, kind of, is this Alice in Chains EP from 1993. It has some cuts from their first few albums and two live tracks that I was particularly interested in. It's nothing really different. I was just excited to hear the live stuff. It's essential Alice in Chains. You have Angry Chair, I Know Something About You, Lead the Freak, and It Ain't Like That. So just some nice 90s metal to complement your day if you're really feeling like that. And it's also a 12-inch at 45, which is something I'm really passionate about because they're so weird. You kind of have to adjust your pitch at times, and it's weird to see that whole 12-inch record spinning so fast. Overall, it's just a great piece of musicianship, I think. It shows how tight of a band Alice in Chains were.
So actually, this next album I actually took from my mother's collection. It's the Lumineers 3, and I actually was introduced to this album from my sisters. And the album itself, the Lumineers, they did like this. They recorded a whole movie like based on the ideas of the album, and there's three different stories that they went off of, and the I I made the mistake of watching that movie by myself in the dark with headphones on, and it's a lot. It's a lot of emotional weight to watch, and the songs are really heavy too, and they're all, I believe some of them are actually based off of Wesley Schultz. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, or based off of actual um, things that have happened in his life, and it's really quite interesting to, and I love the folky sounds of it, and the guitar, it's great, and of course the pianist, Jeremy, I mean, he's amazing as well. But yeah, it's really good overall record, and it's good sounding. And yeah, there's just three chapters to it. Good songs, but yeah, hoping to see them live one day. My sister saw them back in New York, and she said it was great. And yeah, the singer, he reminds me, his raspiness in his voice kind of reminds me of Kurt Cobain, like that raspiness. But yeah, I really like that. Really like that album. Yeah,
It's a really fun record I've heard. I
yeah,
need to get more into that folky scene that is the Lumineers, because it's really I don't know how to explain it. It's very organic but also very produced to where it's the perfect balance of what you want to get out of it, which I think is really nice. Up next, I have some more jazz kind of fusion. Jerry Garcia and Howard Wales. Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead does a jazz fusion live recording back in 1970. Really out there. It's all improvisation essentially. And like Caden was saying, it's something that I've wanted to see, but I'll never be able to see. Unlike his implication, which it's a pandemic. But yeah, um, I think this is not super accessible regarding Jerry Garcia's jazz fusion series. Definitely begin with Hooter Roll. There's a question mark at the end, and I think this is just ultimate freedom within music, because they're just going on stage and doing whatever they want, really, without any constraints, and it creates something really beautiful and spontaneous that I think can be lacking from music at times.
yeah. My last album actually was a treasure, and I was not expecting to find this. Sometimes when you're shopping, you kind of find something that you're not really expecting. So there's actually a documentary on Robert Johnson on Netflix, and this is, I believe, this was his first album that came out that he recorded back in 1930, and this is, of course, a remaster and on 180 gram, and it. I mean, when you if you need like a vintage sound recording in the 30s, this is, and it's with blues too. It's really good, and a lot of predominant guitarists now, modern day, refer back to the techniques that he was using, like the slides that he was using. A lot of his scales that he was using as well are very predominant. And on the back here, there's a lot of, it's kind of like a little history as well of the vinyl, and some quotes like what Eric Clapton said. He says, "I have never found anything more deeply soulful than Robert Johnson. His music remains the most powerful cry that I think you can find in the human voice, really." And I looked up this record on Amazon. That's what I usually do to try to see if there's like a little more they can get like from the songs. Because sometimes there's a little less. Um, there's actually a couple bonus tracks on here. Sweet Home Chicago. And on the first side, I believe, I'll dust my broom. But my favorite side is the first song, of course. But overall, though, it's a really quite interesting record, and I do recommend watching that documentary because he is known for selling his soul to the devil at the crossroads. It's pretty spooky, but yeah, it's a good record.
Yeah, I'm really happy you pulled that Robert Johnson record. I didn't really expect it, just because Robert Johnson is so enigmatic, and that
Mysterious.
it's a mysterious. He was a mysterious guy. I just never listened to him, and like I feel like listening to him right now would just make things incredibly worse because of the pandemic. But
Yeah.
I like how you bookended that with Jack White, because there's both that huge blues influence there.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, especially because now I'm thinking of just the historical sense of Robert Johnson. I believe there's only two known photos of him,
Mhm.
and like, it's a little
The-
weird.
yeah, the thing with that is Robert Johnson is it's a rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so important, I think. Like as you brought up that Eric Clapton quote, it's prevalent in all of the music we experience today and consume.
It's like there's so much influence, but I mean, little people do they like little. people don't really know who he is or who he was. And
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, back to that documentary, I think it really kind of encapsulated that. And because I remember learning about him in history class just a little bit, and like a little bit of his influence, but finally kind of just seeing that documentary kind of opened my eyes a little bit more of who he was, because it was a mystery, of course, that this guy comes in and says, I met the devil at a crossroads. And it's like, what? So,
And
but
everything from there.
yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of like blues influence, I also listen to some Steely Dan, which is predominantly influenced by African American music
Ooh,
within like R&B and blues itself. This one features more guitar work than most Steely Dan albums, according to Wikipedia. But the blues taste is really found on their 1980 album Gaucho. Nonetheless, I think this album is one of the best Steely Dan listens. There's lots of interesting percussion and textural work going on that really makes you pay attention. And it's very tight. Like as always with Steely Dan, different bands every song essentially, but it's I'm gonna have to listen to this again and try to frame it in the light of Robert Johnson's blues influence that we've been talking about.
hmm, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any more records on your docket, or?
Actually, it reminds me of a little bit of a blues. I'll kind of gotta go back here and grab it. I didn't grab it. So this is a new record that I got a couple weeks ago. It's Continuum. Oh, this is the wrong thing. Continuum of John Mayer's.
Mhm.
Kind of. I mean, this is not. I think this was his second or third album, if I'm correct. But I believe if for that kind of, if you want that blues sound, I believe it's on here. Vultures. I think it has that kind of that scale. I recommend though, if you really want to encapsulate to really hear like his solos when he goes off, I would recommend listening to his live at Los Angeles.
That's a great record, yeah.
Yeah. And it like I said, it does. I think you can actually find the videos on YouTube, but it's the album itself you can listen to it on Spotify. You can probably find it on YouTube again, just without the live, if you don't look at it live. But yeah, it has that kind of the blues solos, which goes back to the Jack White as well, which if you want to get that blues going. But yeah.
Yeah, it's so amazing to think of, John Mayer and Jack White are essentially contemporaries, and how different their blues playing is, even though it all goes back to Robert Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really fascinating.
Interesting how it all like webs and
Yeah.
influence and like who it all starts from. But yeah.
All right. Are you good to end there?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, this has been Fulton's Music Room for what is Tuesday, March 9th when you're watching this. And I've been joined by my great friend, Caden Spear. And we hope everyone has a wonderful day. And anything else, Caden?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, I'll see you all in the next video.